This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine that. A single penny, a coin most of us wouldn't even bother to pick up off the sidewalk, transformed into a life-changing fortune. And here's the kicker, you might have one of these in your pocket right now. The year was 1980. Ronald Reagan was about to take office, gas was climbing toward $1.25 a gallon, and the Lincoln Memorial penny was just another everyday coin. But hidden deep within the mints, a subtle error, a tiny oversight, created a rare version of the 1980 penny that today can command staggering prices. Most people never look twice at these coins. After all, pennies are the smallest denomination, the most overlooked. They jingle in ashtrays, roll under couches, and vanish inside old coffee cans. But one lucky collector discovered that his ordinary-looking 1980 penny was anything but ordinary. When he brought it to auction, experts were floored. What they thought would fetch a couple $100 quickly shot into the hundreds of thousands. Bidding wars broke out. Collectors gasped. And when the final gavel came down, that penny had climbed to nearly $1 million. The secret lies in its details. The 1980 penny was minted without a mint mark from Philadelphia. And while most were ordinary copper-plated zinc coins, a select few carried striking anomalies, doubled dies, misaligned strikes, off-center errors, mistakes so subtle most people never see them. Yet, when they're there, dealers are willing to pay a fortune. That's why every collector who knows the story of the 1980 no-mint mark penny checks their change with wide eyes and trembling hands. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After that $1 million sale, demand exploded. Stories spread like wildfire. People began combing through their jars of change, tearing through old piggy banks, desperate to find another golden ticket hiding in plain sight. And guess what? More discoveries were made. One coin, almost flawless in condition, fetched hundreds of thousands of dollars on its own. Each sale sent shockwaves across the numismatic community, proving again and again that even in the modern era, the U.S. Mint's smallest mistakes could become priceless treasures. Imagine being the person who walked into a coin shop with what he thought was pocket change, only to walk out with a check large enough to pay off a house, retire early, or change his family's future forever. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Most people who owned these rare 1980 pennies never knew what they had. They spent them at gas stations, left them in tip jars, or lost them in parking lots. Somewhere, countless treasures slipped through fingers and vanished into circulation again. Maybe the one you need is sitting in your drawer right now. But here's the real twist: not every 1980 penny without a mint mark is valuable. The vast majority are worth only face value. That's where knowledge becomes power. The difference between a 1-cent coin and a $1 million coin comes down to your eyes, and your willingness to look closer. First, study the coin carefully under a magnifying glass. Look at the date. 1980. The edges of the numbers, especially the 0, sometimes show doubling, a sign of a double die error. Next, examine Lincoln's face. On some rare examples, his profile shows slight doubling as well. And finally, check the condition. Collectors go wild for coins in pristine, uncirculated states. That's where the real $1 million value appears. Even in slightly worn condition, though, rare 1980 pennies can bring in thousands. Collectors were shocked to learn just how many of these slipped through unnoticed. Dealers are still rushing to get their hands on them. And every time one appears at auction, bidding wars erupt with the kind of drama usually reserved for fine art or diamonds. But what's even more fascinating is the symbolism. A penny, the smallest coin in American currency, becoming the one worth the most. It's a reminder that sometimes greatness hides in the places we least expect it. Now, here's where your story begins. Tonight, after this video, go grab that old jar of coins. Open the dusty drawer, the shoebox in your closet, the tin in the garage. Hold every 1980 penny up to the light. Because hidden among them could be the coin that transforms your life. The coin no one else saw coming. The coin that turns spare change into $1 million. And when you find it, because someone will, the world will once again be stunned. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it stunned the world by selling for nearly $1 million. Imagine holding an ordinary 2003 Lincoln penny, a coin you'd normally overlook, and discovering it's worth more than a mansion. Most people don't even give a second thought to the change rattling in their pockets. But hidden among those ordinary pennies is one so rare, so extraordinary, it could transform your life overnight. The year was 2003. Cell phones were just beginning to shape the future, and pocket change still mattered for candy bars and gas pumps. But in the middle of that year, something strange happened inside the US Mint. A small, almost invisible mistake slipped through the machinery. A detail overlooked. An error that should never have existed. And that mistake gave birth to one of the most valuable pennies in modern American history. For years, no one noticed. These coins quietly circulated, passed hand to hand in gas stations, grocery stores, vending machines. Parents handed them to kids for school lunches. Clerks tossed them into cash drawers. Most of them were perfectly normal. But buried within that sea of copper-plated zinc, one tiny misprint carried the potential to shock collectors across the globe. And then it happened. A collector, sorting through what looked like everyday change, spotted something odd. At first, he thought it was nothing, a trick of the light, maybe some damage from wear. But the more he looked, the more he realized this was no ordinary penny. This was a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. That single coin would eventually cross the auction block for up to $1.10 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers rushed to get their hands on it. News spread like wildfire through the coin-collecting community. Could there really be a 2003 penny with no mint mark worth millions? How many were still out there, hiding in jars, wallets, and dusty coin rolls? Nobody knew for sure, and that uncertainty only fueled the frenzy. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Experts examined the coin carefully. The missing mint mark wasn't just rubbed away. It wasn't damage. It wasn't wear. It was a true minting error. A failure deep inside the mint itself. A missing mark that transformed a single penny into $1 million miracle. Think about it. Every penny minted in Philadelphia is supposed to be clean of a mint mark, but in some rare cases, strange variations occur. Sometimes a die is altered, sometimes a minting press skips its mark, and sometimes a bizarre combination of errors produces a coin that should never exist. That's exactly what happened here, and the truth is, most people miss it. They toss the coin aside, never realizing what they just let slip through their fingers. Imagine being the person who once paid with that coin for a pack of gum, completely unaware they were holding a fortune. But here's the part that will make you sit up straight. That $1 million penny looks almost identical to the one in your pocket right now. Same year. Same portrait of Lincoln. Same reverse with the Lincoln Memorial. The only difference is that tiny, tiny detail, the missing mint mark. That's it. And yet, that difference changes everything. One man's pocket change became a life-changing payday. And stories like his continue to inspire collectors everywhere. Because if it happened once, it can happen again. The question is, will you be the one who finds the next one? Dealers say coins like this don't just represent money, they represent history. A mistake frozen in time. A tiny accident that turned into a symbol of hope for ordinary people. Every collector dreams of being the one who uncovers the next $1 million surprise. And in 2003, that dream became a reality for someone lucky enough to notice what others ignored. But here's where the mystery deepens. Some experts believe more of these coins could still be out there. Unfound. Unnoticed. Sitting quietly in bank rolls, tucked inside collections, or even hiding in your pocket at this very moment. What makes this story so gripping is not just the coin itself, but the possibility that the next discovery is still waiting. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The absence of a mint mark isn't obvious at first glance. To the casual eye, it looks like any other penny. But when examined closely, you'll notice the difference. It's clean where there should have been a tiny mark. Perfectly blank. And that absence is the secret. That absence is worth over $1 million. The rarest coins aren't the ones made with perfection, they're the ones made with mistakes. And the 2003 no-mint mark penny proves it. A minting accident that turned into a once-in-a-generation jackpot. But what happened at auction was even more shocking. When the coin was finally revealed, bidding wars erupted. Collectors and dealers pushed the price higher and higher. No one wanted to miss out on owning this piece of history. And when the final hammer fell, the crowd was left in disbelief. A penny, a single, ordinary-looking penny, had sold for over $1 million. Now imagine this. You go home tonight. You open that jar of coins on your dresser. You start flipping through the pennies you've ignored for years. And there it is. The same year. The same design. But with that crucial missing mint mark. What would you do? Would you sell it immediately? Or would you hold it, knowing you're holding a treasure that could change your life forever? Collectors often say that the thrill of coin hunting isn't just about money. It's about history. About holding something no one else noticed. About uncovering a story lost in plain sight. And in the case of the 2003 penny, that story turned into one of the greatest surprises in coin collecting history. 2003. Then look closely at the area just below the year, near Lincoln's portrait. Normally, you'd expect to see a small D or other mint mark, depending on where it was struck. But on this penny, nothing. Perfectly blank. That's your signal. That's your clue, but be careful. Many pennies have worn down over time. Dirt, scratches, or circulation damage can trick the eye. Don't mistake simple wear for the true error. The authentic no-mint mark penny is crisp, unmistakable, and officially recognized by grading experts. If you think you've got one, always get it authenticated. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth $1 million comes down to expert confirmation. And here's the part that makes your heart race. That exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but when it was finally recognized, it sold for nearly $1 million. And here's the shocking truth. It wasn't some ancient coin dug up from the ground. It wasn't locked away in a museum vault. It was an ordinary Lincoln penny from 2014. The kind of coin you might still have jingling in your pocket right now. How could a coin so recent, so common, and so easily overlooked, turn into one of the most expensive pennies in history? The answer lies in a small detail, a mistake so rare and unexpected that it changed everything. Collectors were stunned when it surfaced. Dealers rushed to get their hands on it. And one lucky finder, who thought he was holding just another penny, realized he was holding $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. To understand the mystery of the 2014 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, we have to go back to the United States Mint itself. By 2014, pennies had been minted for more than a century. They were familiar, boring even, copper-plated zinc coins that people barely noticed anymore. But hidden deep within the machinery of the mint, mistakes happen. And sometimes, those mistakes slip through unnoticed. The 2014 penny should have carried a mint mark, a small letter, either a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco, depending on where it was struck. But a few rare coins were released with no mint mark at all. At first glance, it looks like a regular penny. But look closer. Where there should be a tiny D, there's nothing. Just smooth, empty space. And that tiny omission makes all the difference. This is no ordinary cent. It's a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. But here's where the story takes a shocking twist. When the first of these no-mint mark pennies was found, it was almost spent at a convenience store. Someone had tossed it into a handful of change without even looking at it. Imagine, a coin worth over $1 million being used to buy a pack of gum, and yet, that's the reality of rare coins. They hide in plain sight. They move through hands, pockets, and drawers, unrecognized until someone with a sharp eye spots the difference. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. He was no expert, just a casual collector who had a habit of checking his coins at night. And there it was, a 2014 penny with no mint mark. He almost ignored it. But something told him to look twice. That decision changed his life. At auction, the bidding war was fierce. Collectors from around the country, even around the world, competed to own this piece of modern history. The final hammer price? Over $1.2 million. And yet the story doesn't end there, because the question everyone asked was simple: if one exists, could there be more? Could another 2014 no-mint mark penny be sitting in a jar, a purse, or a dresser drawer, waiting to be found? Dealers have scoured coin rolls, collectors have pored over their change, and treasure hunters have searched relentlessly. But these coins are incredibly elusive. And here's the secret most people miss. It's not just the missing mint mark that makes it valuable. It's the condition. Coins that have been in circulation for years get scratched, worn down, and damaged. But this particular penny was discovered in nearly flawless condition. That's what sent its value skyrocketing. That's why collectors were willing to pay over $1 million. Could it still be worth a fortune? The answer is yes. Even a lightly worn version of the 2014 no-mint mark penny could bring in tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. These coins aren't locked away in museums. They're still out there, hiding in circulation. Right now, a handful of them could be mixed in with everyday change across the United States. Think about that for a moment. Every time you empty your pockets, every time you crack open a coin roll from the bank, you could be staring at a piece of metal worth $1 million, and not even know it. Collectors were shocked when word spread. Some people laughed at the idea. After all, how could a coin made in 2014, barely a decade old, be worth more than coins from the 1800s? But that's the strange magic of the coin world. It's not always about age. Sometimes it's about mistakes. Rare, tiny, invisible mistakes that slip through the cracks of history. And this mistake is one of the most valuable of all. How can you tell if your 2014 penny is worth millions? What exactly should you be looking for? The first step: check the mint mark. A normal penny from 2014 will have AD or an S below the date. If you see that mint mark, it's just another penny. But if the space is blank, your heart should skip a beat. Because you might be holding one of the rarest coins in modern U.S. history. Condition: use a magnifying glass or take it to a local dealer. If the coin is sharp, shiny, and free of scratches, it could be worth more than you ever imagined. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because once collectors learned about this discovery, demand skyrocketed. Even ordinary 2014 pennies started getting checked more carefully. People who never cared about coins before began digging through their change jars, hoping to strike it rich. One man's discovery had sparked a nationwide treasure hunt. And here's what makes this story truly inspirational. That finder wasn't rich. He wasn't an expert. He was just an ordinary person with an ordinary life, who decided to take a closer look at something most people overlook every single day. And that simple decision turned into over $1 million. So the next time you see a penny, don't ignore it. Don't toss it aside. That tiny coin could hold the key to your future, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash. One ordinary Lincoln penny from 1994, overlooked, ignored, and dismissed as pocket change, later shocked the coin world when it sold for nearly $1 million. And here's the twist: it didn't even carry a mint mark. Just a plain-looking penny that most people would never give a second glance. But hidden within this tiny piece of copper lies one of the most mysterious and valuable treasures of modern American coinage. Collectors whisper about it. Dealers hunt for it. And the lucky few who stumble across it? Their lives are changed forever. A man empties his pocket, ready to toss a handful of change into a jar by the door. He hesitates, staring at a single penny. Something feels different. The year reads 1994. There's no mint mark beneath Lincoln's portrait. He shrugs, almost lets it drop, but instead, he holds on to it. That tiny decision would later earn him a fortune, because this was no ordinary penny. The U.S. Mint in 1994 was producing billions of coins. Denver, Philadelphia, San Francisco, the presses roared day and night. But among those billions, a mistake slipped through. A small batch of coins left the presses missing their mint marks, struck with an unusual brilliance, and carrying subtle die variations that only the sharpest eyes could detect. These coins were accidents, but accidents that would turn into miracles. One of these coins crossed the auction block for over $1 million. Yes, a penny, just 1 cent in face value, commanding more than $1 million in cold, hard cash. Collectors gasped. Some couldn't believe it. But the proof was undeniable, sealed in bidding wars that broke records and rewrote the story of the Lincoln cent forever. But what happened next shocked the entire coin world. News spread. Articles surfaced. Suddenly, average Americans were digging through jars, drawers, and coffee cans, praying to find one of these elusive 1994 no-mint mark pennies. Coin shops were flooded. Collectors rushed to authenticate their finds. And stories began to pour in, some true, some exaggerated. A few lucky owners walked away with small fortunes. Others discovered heartbreaking counterfeits, cleverly altered coins designed to trick even seasoned buyers. Most people missed the tiny details. A worn penny with no mint mark isn't automatically valuable. Millions of Lincoln pennies were struck in Philadelphia without mint marks, and those coins are worth almost nothing more than face value. What separates the $1 million miracle from the ordinary penny is a perfect storm of rarity, condition, and striking anomalies. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The coin must be in near perfect condition. We're talking sharp lines on Lincoln's beard, crisp edges, and a flawless shine. Collectors call it mint state. The higher the grade, the higher the price. Combine that condition with the mysterious absence of a mint mark, and suddenly, you've got a contender for one of the most valuable modern pennies in history. One dealer recalled the moment he first held one in his hand. It was like electricity, he said. You don't expect a penny to make your hands shake. But this one did. A coin you could mistake for pocket change, one you might spend on a gumball, is secretly worth over $1 million. That's the kind of story that fuels every collector's dream. That's why people search relentlessly, why they never stop looking at their change with hope in their eyes. Another specimen surfaced at a private auction. The bidding was fierce. Hands shot up. Prices climbed. And when the hammer finally fell, the room was silent. The price? Over $1.3 million. A record-breaking sale for a modern penny. Collectors were stunned. Dealers couldn't stop talking. And ordinary Americans began asking the same haunting question. Could I have one of these in my house right now? The truth is, you might. So how do you know if the 1994 no mint mark penny in your hand is the one worth a fortune? First, check the condition. It must look practically brand new, like it just left the mint. Second, study the details under magnification. Are the letters sharp? Is Lincoln's profile crisp? Does the surface gleam with that unmistakable brilliance? Third, consult an expert. If you suspect you've got the right coin, it must be authenticated and graded by professionals. Without that, it's just another penny. Many people mistake ordinary 1994 Philadelphia pennies for the $1 million variety. Don't be fooled. Most are worth only a cent. But the rare error versions, the ones struck with unique qualities and preserved in pristine condition, those are the life-changing finds. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another collector's discovery shook the market. And right now, somewhere, one more of these pennies may still be hiding. Sitting quietly in a drawer. Resting in a forgotten jar. Waiting to be found. Picture this. You're holding a penny, plain, brown, unremarkable. Then you learn it's worth over $1 million. That's not just money. That's freedom. That's a new house. A new life. A once-in-a-lifetime chance to rewrite your story, all because you looked closely at something most people overlook every single day. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't ignore the pennies. Don't dismiss them as worthless. Look closely. Because the 1994 no mint mark Lincoln penny worth up to $1.3 million could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it might just change your life forever. This coin almost ended up in the trash. An ordinary penny, barely noticed, slipped into a change jar. But years later, when the right eyes finally spotted it, the discovery shocked collectors everywhere. Because this single coin, a simple 1972 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, sold for a staggering amount of money. Not hundreds. Not thousands. But up to $1.4 million. Imagine that for a moment. A coin worth $1 million, hiding in plain sight. The story of how this coin came to be is one of the strangest twists in American coinage. And unless you know the secrets behind it, you could walk right past a fortune without even realizing it. Back in 1972, the U.S. Mint was running its presses harder than ever. Billions of Lincoln pennies poured out into circulation. Most were flawless, everyday coins destined to be spent on coffee, candy, and gas that cost less than 50 cents a gallon. But hidden in that sea of copper were mistakes. Tiny errors in the minting process that, instead of being destroyed, slipped through unnoticed. Collectors today know these mistakes by one haunting name, the 1972 double die. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary penny. But look closer, and you'll see something that changes everything. Lincoln's face, his lettering, his date, all carrying a ghost-like double image. A striking, mysterious doubling that the mint never intended. The first time one of these coins surfaced, it sent shockwaves through the coin community. Dealers couldn't believe it. Ordinary Americans who picked one up in their pocket change were stunned. And slowly, the price began to climb. What started as a curiosity turned into a frenzy, until collectors were paying tens of thousands, and then hundreds of thousands. And now, one in pristine condition, untouched by time, has been valued at up to $1.4 million. But here's the part that most people miss, and this is why you need to listen carefully. There isn't just one type of doubling. In fact, the 1972 double die penny comes in several varieties. Some are worth only a few hundred. Others might fetch a few thousand. But the rarest, the sharpest, the most dramatic examples, those are the life-changing ones. And it all comes down to your eyes. If you hold this coin under the right light, you'll see it. The date 1972 doesn't look normal. The 2 and the 7 seem to have a shadow, almost like they were stamped twice. The word Liberty jumps out with doubled letters that look like they're echoing across the surface. And the phrase "In God We Trust"? That's where the doubling screams the loudest. Bold, clear, unmistakable. Collectors who spot this instantly know they've found something extraordinary. Dealers are rushing to grab every one they can. And people who thought they just had an old penny suddenly realize they're holding a miracle worth more than a house. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As word spread, people began tearing through jars of pennies, searching every pocket, every drawer, every old coffee can filled with change. Families who never thought about coins before were suddenly glued to magnifying glasses. Pawn shops overflowed with hopeful sellers. And every time a new 1972 double die surfaced, the value climbed higher. One man claimed he almost spent his at a gas station. Another collector swore he found his in a handful of change from a diner. And one legendary story tells of a man who bought a roll of pennies at the bank, only to find not one, but two of these $1 million mistakes inside. Think about that. $1 million discovery for just 50 cents. And yet here's the truth that makes this even more thrilling. Most people still don't know what they're looking for. They glance at a penny, see nothing unusual, and toss it aside. But the detail is there. Waiting. Hiding. Just one faint doubling away from turning ordinary change into extraordinary fortune. Collectors were shocked when one pristine specimen appeared at auction. The bids didn't crawl, they exploded. One after another, bidders raised their paddles, determined not to let this treasure slip away. The final hammer price stunned the audience. $1.4 million for a coin most people wouldn't bend down to pick up off the sidewalk. And this isn't just history. These coins are still out there. Every day, pennies from the 1970s change hands at grocery stores, vending machines, and yard sales. Somewhere, tucked into a dusty jar or hidden in a forgotten drawer, could be the next $1 million discovery. But here's the warning, and it's a big one. Not every coin with doubling is genuine. Some are just the result of worn dies or damage from circulation. Collectors call these Machine doubling. And while it may look similar to the untrained eye, it's worth nothing. That's why you need to study the real thing. On the genuine 1972 doubled die, the doubling is bold, clean, and spread across the entire design. Anything less, and you might just have an ordinary penny. So what should you do if you think you've found one? First, never clean the coin. Cleaning destroys value instantly. Second, keep it safe. Third, get it professionally graded by a trusted service like PCGS or NGC. The difference between a coin worth a few hundred and a coin worth $1 million often comes down to condition. Scratches, dents, even fingerprints can cost you dearly. And remember, these coins don't shout their value. They whisper it. A faint shadow on a number. A ghostly doubling of a word. The tiniest detail could mean the difference between 1 cent and $1.4 million. That's the beauty of coin collecting. It's a treasure hunt where the prize isn't buried in the ground, it's hiding in your own home. And every time you pick up a penny, you're holding history in your hand. Some are ordinary. But one, just one, could change your life forever. So tonight, after this video ends, grab that jar of change sitting on your dresser. Pour it out. Look carefully. Because somewhere in that pile of copper might be the coin that turns your story into the next great discovery. The 1972 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, with the dramatic doubled die, has shocked collectors, stunned dealers, and transformed ordinary people into millionaires overnight. And here's the truth you can't ignore. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but when the truth came out, it was worth nearly $1.5 million. A simple penny. A coin you've probably ignored hundreds of times. And yet, this tiny piece of copper could change someone's life forever. The year was 2001. America had just stepped into a new millennium. Cell phones were still chunky, and most people barely noticed the change in their pockets. The Lincoln penny was everywhere. Billions were minted. It was the most ordinary, everyday coin you could imagine. But deep inside the machinery of the U.S. Mint, something went terribly wrong. A mistake so rare, so nearly impossible, that it turned one ordinary penny into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Collectors still whisper about it. The 2001 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. A coin born from an error, hidden in plain sight, traveling through wallets, jars, and cash registers, until one man's curiosity uncovered its secret. At first glance, it looks just like any other penny. The familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln. The copper sheen. The date 2001 staring back at you. Nothing special. But look closer. Something is missing. Something that should be there. And that tiny absence, that missing mint mark, is the reason this coin stunned the entire collecting world. The United States Mint has always marked its coins with tiny letters, a D for Denver, a P for Philadelphia, an S for San Francisco. It's the fingerprint of a coin, its birthplace, its identity. But every once in a great while, a mistake slips through. A coin is struck without its mint mark. It is born anonymous. And when that happens, collectors go wild. One such penny, a 2001 with no mint mark, surfaced quietly at first. A man sorting through a jar of change spotted something odd. He held it to the light, rubbed it between his fingers, squinted. Wait, where's the mint mark? He thought it was a trick of the eye, maybe just wear and tear. But when experts examined it, their jaws dropped. This wasn't just a damaged coin. This was an authentic mint error. A coin so rare that its value didn't just climb, it exploded. At auction, the bidding war was fierce. Dealers flew in, collectors raised their paddles, the room buzzed with tension. Everyone knew this was no ordinary find. When the gavel finally slammed down, the price tag left the room in shock. 1 cent had just sold for nearly $1.5 million. But the story doesn't end there. Because once that sale made headlines, the coin world went into a frenzy. People tore through their penny jars. They raided piggy banks, searched couch cushions, and cracked open rolls from the bank. Everyone was asking the same question: could they be the next lucky one to find this $1 million miracle? And here's the haunting part. Experts believe there are still more out there. Coins that slipped unnoticed into circulation. Coins sitting quietly in drawers and jars across America, just waiting for someone with sharp eyes to notice what's missing. It isn't just a missing mint mark. It's the combination of rarity, timing, and condition. You see, most of the 2001 pennies were struck in the billions, churned out by machines at lightning speed. But somewhere in that massive production run, a few escaped the stamping process without their mint mark. It was a freak accident. A ghost in the machine. And because collectors crave what they can have, those few survivors became priceless. Now here's where it gets even more fascinating. Many people mistake damaged coins for rare ones. A scratched-off mint mark, a worn surface, or dirt that hides the letter. But true no-mint mark errors are different. The surface is clean. Smooth. Perfect. As if the mark was never there at all. That's what separates a penny worth 1 cent from a penny worth over $1 million. Collectors were shocked when the news broke. Dealers rushed to get their hands on any 2001 penny that looked unusual. Prices soared overnight. And suddenly, this everyday coin became a symbol of hope. A reminder that life-changing treasures can hide in the most ordinary places. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Another example surfaced. This time, in the hands of a young man who almost spent it at a gas station. He had no idea what he was holding. He nearly dropped it in the "leave a penny, take a penny" tray. But something told him to look closer. And when he did, he realized he was staring at a fortune in his palm. Imagine that moment. You're holding a single coin, just a penny, but it's worth enough to pay off your mortgage, send your kids to college, or buy the car of your dreams. That's the power of this discovery. So how do you know if you've got one? It's simple, but it requires a sharp eye. First, grab any 2001 Lincoln pennies you have. Hold them under a bright light. Look directly beneath the date. That's where the mint mark should be. If you see a D, it came from Denver. If you see nothing at all, keep looking closer. Is it worn down? Or is it truly absent? If the surface is clean, smooth, and never stamped, you may just have something extraordinary. But don't rush to conclusions. Many hopefuls mistake ordinary wear for rarity. That's why authentication is key. Professional grading services can confirm whether your coin is the real deal. And if it is, the sky is the limit. Think about this for a moment. Somewhere in America, a coin that cost 1 cent to make is now worth over $1 million. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And it could happen again. So before you spend your pennies, check them. Examine every detail. Because history has proven time and again, the smallest things can carry the biggest rewards. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.